Cezanne and the Apple Boy. Paul was playing with his friends when his mother brought him a letter. "Look," she said, "it's from your father." Paul had not seen his father in a long time. He knew that his father was an artist who lived far away in the countryside, and Paul had exactly the same name as his father. It was written on all of his school books. Then something fell out of the envelope. It was a train ticket. His mother packed some food in a little bag. She put him on the train and kissed him goodbye. It was a long journey, and the motion of the train put Paul to sleep. When he woke up, he saw a mountain. Paul walked out of the station and into the little town. At last he found his father's house, but there was nobody at home. "I'll tell you where to find him," said a lady. "Halfway up the mountain, he's painting crazy pictures." So Paul stepped down the winding path which led out of town and into the mountains. It was very hot, and the path was so steep up a big hill. In the shade of a tree, a donkey was munching on apples. Someone was talking to himself nearby. He could hear it. Paul was concerned, and he peeped around the corner. "Oh," he shouted. High on a rocky path, he saw a man as big as a bear. He was making a wild painting. He had a shaggy beard and crazy wild eyes. Paul ran back down the path. Paul, don't you remember? I am your father. I am Paul Cezanne, the same as you." Cezanne was as big as a mountain, but he spoke very gently. "I am so happy to see you." Then the mountain man packed up his paints and set off along the path. "We're going to go on a journey right to the top of the Blue Mountain," said Cezanne. "It's a long way, but if we follow the path, we won't get lost. We haven't got much money, but look, we have plenty of apples and plenty of paint and canvases. You look after the donkey, and I will look after you." When it grew dark, they built a fire by a tiny little stream. "Tomorrow I will paint a picture of you," said Cezanne, "a portrait. But you will have to sit as still as an apple." Then they fell asleep under the stars. When Paul woke up, Cezanne was sorting his paintings. "You see, Paul, I am inventing a new kind of painting. I try to make everything into simple shapes. I paint houses like boxes, and trees like cones, and apples like circles. Everything has a shape." "What shape am I?" said Paul. "You are round and sweet, like an apple." They followed the winding path through a valley and into a dusty village. The people in the village at the cafe stared at Cezanne and laughed at his pictures. "What have you painted today?" they teased him. "A crooked house or a wobbly tree?" "You see, Paul," his father sighed, "the world does not understand me, and I don't understand the people in the world. That's why I spend a lot of my time alone in the mountains, so I don't get hurt and have my feelings hurt." "And that's why you are so poor, mountain man," laughed the people in the cafe. Cezanne stood up and walked towards the door. "Just a minute," said a voice behind them. "May I see that picture?" Paul turned around. A man with a bow tie and an expensive suit was staring at his paintings. "This is extraordinary," he said. "It's beautiful. I would like to take your paintings back to my art gallery in the city of Paris. My name is Vollard, and I am an art dealer, and I am always looking for exciting new paintings." "Well, we have more paintings than we can carry," said Cezanne. "Take as many as you like. Have this one, and then this one." So Vollard left with a huge pile of paintings. Paul ran after him. "Please, Mr. Vollard," he whispered, "look after these paintings. I think they are very special. I think my father has invented a new kind of painting." Then Paul helped his father pack up his paints. As they walked out of the dusty village, they could still hear the people laughing at Paul's father. "Oh, little Paul," said Cezanne, "sometimes life is so hard, It's as hard as climbing a mountain. Maybe those people are right. Maybe my paintings are worth nothing at all. At last, there was no money left. I should find a job, said Cezanne. The trouble is, I am only good at one thing, and that is painting. I know something else you are good at, said Paul quietly. You are good at being a father. In the distance, Paul saw a tiny man waving his arms and shouting. When he came closer, Paul could see the man was dressed up in the expensive suit with the bow tie. It was Vollard. Quick, Paul, he pointed. Where is your father? My father is working, said Paul. If you want to buy a painting, you will have to talk to me. Vollard laughed. Listen, he said, everyone in Paris is talking about the mountain man, your father. They say he has invented a new kind of painting. Of course, said Paul. My father is the greatest painter in the world. What's all the noise? Asked Cezanne, coming around the corner. I'm trying to explain, said Vollard. I have sold every one of your paintings. All this money is for you. I want to buy more paintings, as many as you can paint. Cezanne was so relieved, he stuffed the money in his pocket. Thank you very much, Mr. Vollard. I would like to shake your hand, but I get a little nervous touching people. Now, if you will excuse me, Paul and I have to leave. We are nearly at the top of our mountain. Sometimes life is hard, said Cezanne, but you follow your path, and last you reach the top. Then Paul and his father walked back down the mountain. When they reached the dusty village, Paul was afraid that the people would laugh, but he was proud and he held himself high. He said, I am the son of the mountain man, he whispered. He knew he was a great painter. The summer was ending, and the apple trees were golden brown. At last they reached the little town, and there was Cezanne's house near the station. Paul ran so fast he almost knocked over his mother, who he was waiting to take him home. Paul, she said, I hardly recognized you. You've grown so tall this summer. Well, Paul, said his father, we've had a good expedition. I would like to shake your hands, but I will give you a big kiss instead, said little Paul. When Paul got back to the city, he ran outside to see his friends. He didn't notice, but something fell from his pocket. A tiny apple seed. 10 years had passed. Paul had grown up. He looked outside where the tiny seed had grown into a big apple tree, which blossomed in the spring and made apples in the fall. He thought of his father, Paul Cezanne, following his path, high on the Blue Mountain. He had become a successful art dealer, just like Vollard. Little Paul sold his father's paintings all over the world, and people paid millions of dollars for his paintings of the mountains, crooked houses, and piles of apples on wobbly tables. The end.